All right, then. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is November 22nd, 2020. This is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority being conducted in Albany and also remotely. We have joining us by phone Chairman Bradley.
I'm here.
We have Commissioners Fan and Commissioners Ford both joining us by video. Staff in attendance, we have General Counsel Meyerhoff on video. We have Deputy Commissioner of Licensing Roberts on the telephone.
I'm here, thanks.
And myself, Secretary Donahue, in the Albany offices. We have 4 items on today's calendar. There are requests from Counsel's Office for emergency summary orders of suspension. The first item is 1628T. It's Suffolk OP 1303134. The licensee is Station Pub, LLC.
Good afternoon, members. Margarita Marsico on behalf of Counsel's Office. We're requesting that you issue an emergency order of summary suspension as to this licensee. This licensee has a pending notice of pleading. Very briefly, I'll just describe what that is. I believe you have a copy of the report. On September 9th, 2020, Investigator McGee observed approximately 8 people not social distancing at the bar and drinking. There was a band that was packing up in the rear patio. Employees are not wearing face masks. And the owner, Mr. Stephen Rubino, who was present, said that the premise was closed. We sent a notice of pleading out on November 3rd, and that notice of pleading is returnable on December 2nd. Investigator McGee returned for a follow-up inspection on November 20th of this year at about 9:28 p.m. She went in alone. She once again observed patrons not social distancing, walking around with no masks. And that's clearly obvious in the photographs that she took. There was a bartender that was not wearing a mask as well. There was no food being served. Rubino recognized the investigator from her prior inspection. I spoke to Investigator McGee. She told me that Mr. Rubino was invading her personal space the entire time that she was attempting to do this inspection amongst him and his patrons, most of whom were not wearing masks. She asked Mr. Rubino to please put on a mask and he refused. When she went to try to look at the license, she told me that he grabbed her arm and then he pulled the license out of her hand. That's when she went outside and informed the state trooper, who was her partner that day, of what had occurred. Mr. Rubino followed them outside. He was belligerent, argumentative, and appeared intoxicated. He kept repeating himself. He accused her of costing him $1,500 for the first inspection. That case has not been settled, so I don't know why he thinks he was going to pay $1,500, but that's what he said. And at that point, the investigator and the state trooper left. They drove away and then they came back to continue surveilling the premise. She took numerous photos of what was going on in front, and from those photos, it is obvious that the premise is still operating until she left at 10:20 p.m. You could see people in the doorway. You see shadows inside. There's clearly occupants still inside. The investigator noted that there were cars that were still in the parking lot. So Mr. Rubino, he presents an imminent threat to the safety of all of us, including the investigator. And for the reasons that are described in the reports, the photographs, and what the investigator expressed to me, I'm requesting that the members issue an order of summary suspension.
All right, with that, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
When was this location licensed, Margarita?
It was licensed in October of 20, I'm sorry, one second, I'm sorry. I have it right here. September 11th of 2017, and it's located at 3 Lakeland Avenue in Sayville, New York.
And do they have any adverse history?
Just the pending notice of pleading. There were 3 complaints filed with us in connection with COVID for lack of social distancing outside, for patrons not wearing masks. But that's the only adverse information we had.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
The first date, was it 9/6 or 9/9, Margarita?
The first date was, I thought it was September 9th. I hope you have the report, Commissioner Ford. I can look at the report again. I typed September 9th.
Okay,
It says, the report says September 6th at 8:03 time
Oh, okay.
start.
Okay. I
Yeah.
apologize. So
And
September 6th.
that is the report that Investigator McGee did. And I believe that's the one you were referring to.
Yes.
okay, thank you. No further questions.
Chairman Bradley, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
All right, with that, I'm going to call for the vote of the members. First, Commissioner Fan.
Based on the evidence provided by counsel and the picture submitted into evidence, it's clear that this location is an imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, and I vote to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
I vote to summarily suspend for the same reasons.
And Chairman Bradley.
I vote to summarily suspend based on council's presentation. It's clear this licensee is a risk to the public health, safety, and welfare.
All right, then the next item I have is 1628U, New York OP 1312289. The licensee is 7 Cornelia Hospitality, LLC.
Good afternoon. I'm Margarita Marsico for counsel's office again. We're requesting that the members issue a summary suspension as to this premise. This premise also has a pending matter, case number 146928. On August 11th of 2020, an investigator, the facts in that pending matter are that an investigator observed a female drinking alcohol inside the licensed premise with no food. The bartender was not wearing a face mask. Gregory Sig, who is one of the co-owners, there's 2 owners, provided the investigator a receipt listing green papaya as food because the investigator wanted proof that there was food being served. The investigator did some further digging and asked the patron if, in fact, she had ordered any food, and she said she had not. And afterwards, I believe it may have been the co-owner, but somebody else there claiming to be his brother, which oftentimes it seems has been Callum McLaughlin, the co-owner. But someone identifying himself as the brother of Mr. Sig then said, no, I gave her free flatbread or something like that. But finally, Gregory Sig admitted that he had given the investigator a receipt for a different patron. So that's the pending matter. They pled not guilty to that charge. More recently, on November 14th, at approximately 10:45 p.m., a neighborhood coordinating officer who covers this area went to do an inspection. He observed that the front door of the premises was locked and that the curtains were drawn. He could hear music and voices through the door. He gained entry and observed 25 occupants inside, which is over the 25% limit of 60, which would be 15. The owner, Callum McLaughlin, identified himself as a manager, not the owner. And he said in substance, I don't care if the SLA takes my license, I'm losing my business anyway. So this attitude really alarmed the police department. And that is when they reached out for the SLA and our joint task force for assistance. So on November 17th, 2020, Investigator Stavali started surveilling the premise at approximately 10:07 p.m. He entered the premise. He did not initially disclose his identity. He observed 2 females sitting at a rear table drinking wine with other glasses of wine on the table. When the investigator asked Gregory Sig, the owner, for a receipt, the owner produced a receipt showing that apparently these 2 females were being offered an unlimited drink offering. The owner also admitted that he was serving pre-mixed margaritas. There were 9 bottles of illicit alcohol with handwritten labels on them of hard liquor. They're using the unauthorized trade name Chop Chop. This premise is a chronic 311 noise location for the precinct, which is part of the reason why the neighborhood coordinating officer went there. We're investigating the calls. You see the reports, they're attached to the email, they appear to be anonymous, but it does appear that a lot of these calls are coming from residents in the building. This premise is located at the bottom floor of a residential building. The licensee principal acknowledged that residents have been complaining about the noise being emitted there. There were fire life safety violations, including unsecured compressed gas tanks, unmounted and uninspected fire extinguishers, extension cords used as permanent wiring, candles lit with no open flame permit, and uninspected fire extinguishers. This is always a dangerous situation, but especially so when it's beneath residents living directly above the premise. So, it appears that this licensees are not getting the message, and they want to have unlimited drink offerings in the middle of a world pandemic. They present a present danger to all of us and all investigators and police that have to go there. So we're requesting that you issue a summary suspension.
Yes, just to add one point or repeat one point. So we had the police officers in there on the 14th of November, operating way after curfew, and the owner saying, I don't care, take my license, whatever. And then when we went back, they were still operating after curfew when investigator Stravali went back a few nights later. So expecting this place to comply with the law going forward seems like perhaps a bad idea.
And I also want to clarify that the night that the investigator was there, Investigator Stravali, he was there on November 19th. I apologize. He was there on November 19th.
All right, with that, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
Margarita, did you say when they were licensed?
I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, Commissioner. It's October 19th of 2018, and they have no adverse history aside from the pending matter.
Thank you.
Chairman Bradley, do you have any questions?
Oh, I have no questions.
All right, with that, I'll call for the vote of the members. First, Commissioner Fan.
Given the fact that this licensee have told our investigator that he will not comply, then we know for a fact that he's not in compliance with the governor's executive order surrounding COVID-19. This location is therefore an imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, and I vote to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
Based on evidence presented by counsel, I find this location to be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, so I vote to summarily suspend as well.
And Chairman Bradley.
Based on the presentation by council submissions, I vote to summarily suspend. It's clear this licensee is a risk to the public health, safety, and welfare.
All right, the next item I have is 1628V, New York OP 1224206. The license is Billiard Balls Management, LLC.
Hi, good afternoon, members. This is Kayla O'Donnell on behalf of counsel's office. November 19th, SLA investigator Stravali visited the licensed premises. Upon arrival, he noticed that at least 15 of the 25 patrons present were standing, most without wearing masks. They were mixing and mingling, hunging, and walking about. There were also 4 patrons playing pool, 2 patrons playing ping pong, 2 patrons bowling, and 2 patrons dancing. The photos in the record before you depict these activities. There was also a private party taking place. There were patrons consuming cake and beverages. Some of these party goers were standing. None of them were wearing masks, and they were not social distancing. According to the party's contract, the party was to end at 10:30 p.m., which is after the executive order closing time, which is 10 p.m. When investigator Stravali left the premises a few minutes after 10 o'clock, the party was still taking place. Additionally, as a result of these violations, these findings, licensee is being charged with violating executive orders 202.41 and 202.74. But in addition to those executive order violations, licensee is also being charged with visibility and with a fire code violation for exposed electrical wiring. Given these violations, the licensee has failed to properly supervise licensed premises. This license was issued on September 9th, 2009. The licensee does have somewhat of a significant adverse history. Most recently, they had a disorderly premises and a failure to supervise in 2018. They do have a pending matter, which they pled not guilty to from May of 2019, which included a focal point, a disorderly premises, and a failure to supervise. And then in 2016, they have two separate cases, which comprised of a improper conduct for failing to call the police regarding armed patrons inside the premises, as well as failure to post pregnancy and prohibited sale signs, failure to conform to their application for using a manager and for having more security than indicated, for unlicensed security, and for health code violations. Since the licensee cannot be trusted to follow the law, any law, and is not enforcing the governor's executive orders, which were designed to prevent further spread of COVID-19, which has quickly rising numbers currently, an emergency order of summary suspension is required to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the patrons, the employees, their families, and the community as a whole from an outbreak. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Chairman Bradley.
No questions, thank you.
All right, with that, I'll call for the vote of the members. First, Commissioner Fan.
Based on the evidence provided, this location is presenting an imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare. I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
Based on evidence presented by counsel, I vote to summarily suspend this license as well.
And Chairman Bradley.
Based on the evidence provided by counsel, I vote to summarily suspend. It's clear this licensee is a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare.
All right, then, the next item I have is 1628W, Suffolk OP 1257986. Licensee is Rockwell's Bar and Grill Corp.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members. Robert Buckley for Council's Office. The licensee that the Secretary just mentioned has a trade name, Rockwell's Bar and Grill, 60 Terry Road, Smithtown, New York, in Suffolk County. It's located on Terry Road, on North-South Street, between Route 25 and Route 347, two main thoroughfares in Suffolk County. It's located on in a strip mall, three other stores in the strip mall. This location is licensed as a restaurant. No security, only recorded music, no manager. The manager would be the principal, a Peter Trink. The license was initially issued on January 10th, 2012. It's just an American-style restaurant. This submission is primarily based on an inspection made by Inspector McGee and Trooper Banks on this past Friday evening, November 20th, 2020. Before I get to that, just a brief rundown of the chronology of this location. Before March of 2020, there was no referrals made to the authority regarding this licensee. However, there was in March of this year a complaint that the location was selling on premise. At that point, obviously Long Island was in phase one. There was no on-premise consumption. They looked, our investigators went to the location. They met with a manager, Thomas Bernard, but there was no indication of on-premise consumption. It was just delivery and takeout. In the intervening time, in the summer of 2020, there have been several referrals forwarded to the Enforcement Bureau under the PAWS Enforcement Assistance, alleging the location has no face covering, persons that have face coverings, selling alcohol beverages without food, being crowded, and the other executive order type violations. On September 1st of 2020, Inspector McGee, along with State Trooper Burns, went to the location and found outside there were persons sitting at tables the tables were too close together, people were not social distancing, again, outside the location. Notice of pleading was brought as that those violations, the licensee is entered a conditional contest plea, which has not yet been forwarded to the members. Again, on this past Friday, Inspector McGee went to the location with a different State Trooper Banks. On Google Street View, it seems that this strip mall does have an expansive parking lot. However, the two investigators could not find a parking spot in the strip mall parking lot, so they had to park it apparently across the street. They followed a group of persons inside the location this is about 5:55 p.m., 6 p.m. on this past Friday. Outside the location before entering, they saw two persons without face coverings who were consuming beverages, not wearing their face coverings properly, were consuming beverages outside. Upon entry, the narrative of Investigator McGee indicates that the premises was packed with persons not engaged in social distancing, many walking around the premises without face coverings, persons gathering at the bar area, standing and drinking, again, in violation of the various executive orders that the governor has promulgated. On this occasion, the manager was Cesar Morales Guerra, who Investigator McGee recognized from the prior visit on September 1st of 2020. And she pointed out to Mr. Guerra Morales that these group of people, a group of 11 people, are standing, not engaged in social distancing, not sitting down, and in conjunction with the dining experience that's required under the executive orders. And Mr. Guerra Morales didn't make any attempt to have these persons sit at tables and dine as opposed to the drinking. And again, these complaints that have been forwarded to the Enforcement Bureau, in essence, indicated this premises was acting as a bar. And so on this occasion, it was indeed acting as a bar. Now, the premises has the capacity in its application listed as 120 persons. Trooper Banks noted 54 persons. In the town of Smithtown, the circuit occupancy doesn't have the capacity on it. That would be something that the fire marshal would be determined, and a premises is issued an occupancy sign on it. In this instance, Investigator McGee indicated she could not see the capacity sign, even though under the town of Smithtown code it's supposed to be conspicuously displayed. Look, this premises has been licensed as a restaurant for quite some time. I looked at other applications, and it does seem to be in that range of 110, 120 persons that other applicants stated their capacity is. So if it was at 54, I don't know if she noted the employees as well. She said the investigator, Trooper Banks, notified counted 54 patrons. So they're right on the edge of that 50% capacity if they didn't go over it. But in any event, clearly the licensee was in violation of Executive Order 202.43. Those persons outside the location were not wearing face coverings properly, and then 202.41 in that the premises had, to some degree, a bar-type atmosphere, not sit-down dining, as well as on these two occasions there was a manager there. Just one last thing, this Thomas Bernard, who's noted on the March 20th visit by the State Liquor investigators, his name is also mentioned in both of Investigator McGee's reports as the owner or referral person. Again, the only principal is Peter Trink. And I did note in the file that under the original notice sent to the town of Smithtown indicating that an application was going to be made, Thomas Bernard is listed as the potential license holder. So there might be an indication that there's undisclosed interest. But in any event, the governor has indicated that bars, restaurants, other places of public gathering like gyms, bowling alley, et cetera, or premises which have particular potential for transmission of the virus. So in this case, it appears that the licensee was put on notice by the September 1st date, and they have chosen to put profits over protection. And I think there is a sufficient basis for the members to make a determination that the public health, welfare, and safety is endangered by the continuing this premises being licensed to sell alcohol beverages. Again, I think the governor just made an announcement today that Long Island is also one of those locations which might be subject to further restrictions. I think clearly this licensee has decided not to comply with the executive orders that the governor has imposed. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
All right, then. Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Chairman Bradley, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions.
All right, with that, I'll call for the vote of the members. First, Commissioner Fan.
Based on evidence submitted by counsel, this location an imminent threat to public.
Commissioner Fan, you broke up a little bit there during your narrative. Could you? I just ask you to just repeat it so we have it on the record. Commissioner Fan, could you just repeat what you said because it broke up a little bit?
Buckley, this location is an imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare.
You're breaking up a little bit, Commissioner Fan, at least on my end. We did get your vote, and then we did get your explanation. So I think, and now you're muted, so all right, but we did get your vote, and then you repeated your explanation. So I think we're all set.
Tom, just confirm she voted to summarily suspend, please.
She did. Commissioner Fan, can you? You're muted right now, Commissioner Fan. Can you just confirm your vote, Commissioner Fan?
You're muted.
All right,
Oh, here goes.
all right, we've lost. All right, hold on. We've Commissioner Fan, we've lost your feed here. We're not getting your. Can you try again? I've got your video. Can you just?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes. So just confirm that you're voting for the summary?
Yes. To summarily suspend due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare.
Okay. Commissioner Ford, your vote, please.
I vote to summarily suspend for the same reasons.
And Chairman Bradley.
I vote to summarily suspend. It's clear this licensee is a risk to the public health, safety, and welfare.
All right, then. I have nothing else. Chairman, is there anything else you have?
No, just thank you all for coming in on Sunday. It's greatly appreciated.
All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody.